அலையடிச்சு நிலை குலைஞ்ச செய்தி கேட்டதும் ஐயோ விலையில்லா உயிர்களை பறிகொடுத்ததும். அலையடிச்சு நிலை குலைஞ்ச செய்தி கேட்டதும் ஐயோ விலையில்லா உயிர்களை பறிகொடுத்ததும். நாடெல்லாம் துடிச்சு போனதே, அந்த துடிப்புக்கு பேர் மனித நேயமே.
The tsunami came, the waves came in, it was all gone.
There was nothing left. No clothes, no money, no home, no jobs, nothing.
We had no means to even eat.
We were starving. There were no jobs to be had. Overnight, we had become beggars.
Similar voices still echo from many of the coastal villages in southern India, especially in Cuddalore, Nagapattinam and Kanyakumary. The tsunami has come and gone, but the tsunami victims are still living in tragic circumstances, in emergency or temporary shelters, struggling to rebuild their lives and waiting in hope for a permanent home. Balendra is a refugee from Sri Lanka, volunteering with OfERR, an organization of refugees working in the refugee camps in India for 15 years.
Our refugees were all Ceylon Tamil refugees who had escaped the civil war in Sri Lanka, and they had come over to India. And having come over to India, they were living for the last 15 years in temporary shelters which were very similar to the ones that had been provided to the tsunami victims. OfERR had provided these refugees empowerment by providing them education, skills and personal development.
When the tsunami hit India, Balendra and 640 Sri Lankan refugees trained by OfERR as health workers, teachers, women's empowerment trainers and counselors began to work with the tsunami victims, virtually visiting every household in the affected areas.
In these one-room shelter units, they eat, sleep, change clothes, cook, hang their makeshift cribs for their babies and keep their belongings, all within the confines of this tiny space. The people appealed to us for help, complaining that they couldn't continue living in these shelters, which had been meant as an emergency intervention for a brief period until permanent houses were constructed.
Until the permanent houses are built, we have no choice but to live like this.
The permanent housing was getting delayed. Therefore, OfERR contacted the Dan Church Aid and together prepared a proposal for the improvement of these temporary shelters, and the proposal was submitted to ECHO.
This project is co-financed by DCA and ECHO. It's approximately a one-year intervention where we work together with our implementing partner OfERR in the districts of Cuddalore, Nagapattinam and Kanyakumary. The focus of the intervention is shelter improvement, water and sanitation and health and hygiene awareness, and we implemented these activities in 23 tsunami camps.
Having secured the support of the state government, OfERR and the DCA brought in an architect, Mr. Balasavar, to design the interventions so as to bring about a qualitative improvement in the lives of the victims.
The real challenge was to provide a sense of security, shelter and home while keeping in mind that this intervention was temporary in nature.
OfERR and the DCA, along with Mr. Balasavar, conducted an extensive needs assessment study before finalizing the areas of interventions. One of the issues that needed to be addressed was the excessive heat generated by the tar sheets used in the roofing, as well as the fact that many needed to be repaired.
These tar sheet roofs absorb heat. We can't stay inside the house. It's boiling hot. The children are getting sores and heat boils.
Look at my roof, the tin sheets are collapsing and water seeps in when it rains.
Instead of individually repairing each roof, large thatched roof structures were provided over each row of shelters to give shade to the shelter units. An air gap was maintained between the tar sheets and the thatched roof to allow for ventilation, thereby making them cooler.
Now it's much cooler inside our houses. The children are much more healthy and comfortable. Their assistance in putting up the thatch roof is something that we'll never forget. We'll be grateful to them for the rest of our lives.
The thatch roofs were also extended to encompass the space in front of each shelter unit. This not only provided the families with an additional space, but also served as a kitchenette. Earlier, the women were cooking inside the units, which led to their tiny living space being filled with smoke and fumes. This caused severe health problems and also posed a fire hazard. The new kitchen extensions were fitted with smokeless chulas, a cooking apparatus that OfERR had introduced in the refugee camps.
After they've built these outdoor kitchen extensions and given us these smokeless chulas, the smoke and fumes go up through this pipe, so it's much better.
As thatch is easily flammable, once the new thatch roofs and kitchen extensions were finished, fire buckets filled with sand were hung outside the houses as a precautionary measure.
We couldn't be utopian in providing water there when there has been a scarcity of water. So we decided that it was simpler to provide buckets with sand.
The second component of the intervention was to protect the shelters from flooding. As they were mostly built in low-lying areas, the shelters were built at ground level, and some shelters had no flooring at all. The terrible rains and floods that hit Tamil Nadu in the months of October and November 2005 brought more misery and discomfort to the victims.
The house gets flooded when it rains. The water from outside flows in. Just outside the door, there is stagnant water, slush, and a putrid stench everywhere. Mosquitoes and waterborne diseases are spreading.
The flooring is all crumbling and badly in need of repair. Volunteers from OfERR assess the situation and they are raising, repairing and cementing the floors and building a raised platform like a foyer in front of the house using bricks, sand and cement. They are building it together with our villagers. They've given us these shelves. They're very useful to organize our things. Earlier we used to stack our belongings on the floor. Now our houses don't get flooded and the new flooring is clean and dry and we are able to sleep peacefully and live comfortably. It's starting to feel like a home.
Next, the issue of privacy and security had to be addressed. The tar sheets which constituted the walls and doors had endured the scorching sun and terrible rains and were in shambles, torn and dilapidated with large gaping holes.
These doors are all torn up. We can't even leave the house because we can't lock the door. Our OfERR volunteers have gone to each and every house and taken measurements of the doorway. Now we are making the doors to those specifications in the OfERR regional office in Nagapattinam. The doors will be painted with the name of the house owner and they will be fitted into the shelters and the broken tar sheets will be replaced.
Earlier, it was impossible to manage with little children and anybody passing by could look into the house through the holes in the tar sheet. There was no privacy and I felt very insecure. Now they've put new tar sheets and new doors.
We proposed that we could create a program of actually painting the entire shelters. So the shelters were painted in white with community participation.
They've painted our houses and made it really feel like a home. My heartfelt thanks to them.
Having brought about the metamorphosis from a shelter to a home, the next criteria was to concentrate on the specific needs of the women. The women were provided with bamboo screens which they could place within the shelters to carve out their own space within an otherwise single room. These screens could be rolled up or let down as the need arose.
We who are refugees have lived in temporary shelters for years and in our experience, it is our women that faced many hardships as they had needs which are usually overlooked.
We have paid extra attention to mainstreaming women throughout the whole intervention. The latrines and bathing places with the solar lighting have been put in place for security. And then we have also provided some bamboo screens for privacy.
The OfERR volunteers gave us these screens which are a godsend. They give us some privacy. Now we can change our clothes or sleep behind them.
Another basic need that had to be addressed was sanitation facilities. Latrines and bathrooms were provided, keeping the women in mind. as most of the bathrooms and latrines provided in the shelters were broken and unusable. Solar lights were provided for lighting them so that the women felt secure in using them at night.
Earlier, it was really difficult for us women. We couldn't relieve ourselves in the nights. Now we have latrines and it's safe because it's all lit up with these solar lights. Not only have the OfERR volunteers put up latrines, bathing places and water tanks, they are also teaching us to maintain them and keep them clean.
The solar lights were also put up as street lights and used to light the community centers. The community centers were a place where the community could gather and meetings could be held at night.
Now, because of the solar lights in the community center, it's easy for us to be part of the women's groups or cleanliness committees. The meetings are held at night, so we can finish our housework and attend.
The community centers were used in the final stages of the implementation to conduct water and sanitation programs and health awareness campaigns. The focus of these programs was to instill in the community the need for and the benefits of a clean and healthy lifestyle, while also focusing on the maintenance of the many improvements that had been made during the intervention. Many health and sanitation measures were carried out, such as spraying insecticide, water testing, putting chlorine tablets in contaminated water, teaching the people to keep their homes, toilets and surroundings clean, providing them with water tanks and drainage facilities, inoculating them against diseases, putting up posters, distributing pamphlets on health and hygiene, and creating clubs like Women's Empowerment, youth forums, and cleanliness committees.
I can't describe the suffering we went through. Nobody cared for us or treated us like human beings. We had no hope left. But these OfERR volunteers, who are refugees, treated us with so much kindness, like a mother feeds her baby with her own milk. Like us, they've also lost everything and are living in temporary shelters. And yet they worked selflessly, night and day, in the heat and floods to give us homes. What these refugees have done for us, nobody has ever done. They've given us strength, dignity and hope.
All that OfERR was able to achieve was due to the fact of the support provided by ECHO, DCA and the European community, which provided the funds, and equally the Government of India and the Government of Tamil Nadu and the officials were extremely sensitive to the needs of the people and the support provided by them.
They've given us roofs, doors, walls, floors, kitchens, stoves, everything. They've given us a home. Thank you so much. You have done so much for us.
Thanks on behalf of Tamil Nadu.
கூட்டம் கூட்டமால் வந்தது வண்டி வண்டியாய் உதவி வந்தது வந்த மனசுல தெம்பு வந்தது மனிதன் சாகல நம்பு என்றது மனிதன் சாகல நம்பு என்றது குடிக்க தண்ணீரை கொடுத்தது யாரு சொந்தமில்லையே எத்தனை பேர் சீருடை புத்தகம் கொடுத்தது யாரு சொந்தமில்லையே எத்தனை பேர் பொழைச்சிக்க புது வழி சொன்னது யாரு சொந்தமில்லையே எத்தனை பேர் ஊரு தெரியல பேரு தெரியல ஒன்னு தெரியுது மனிதன் சாகல ஊரு தெரியல பேரு தெரியல ஒன்னு தெரியுது மனிதன் சாகல